Bear with me one moment. Great. Hello, everyone who's been able to join us today. For those who don't know me, I'm Mike Brown from Greenberg Consultants, and I'll be hosting the Lunch and Learn session on behalf of the ICG. Today, our webinar is run by a team from IRB, who are a global online B2B data collection specialist. And I'm pleased to introduce Elena, Jeff, and David, who will be running the webinar today. They will talk us through some key B2B research myths and stereotypes, showing how IRB is addressing them. They'll also share some relevant case studies and how IRB can help us as ICG members with online and offline research. A reminder that with questions, if you could pop them in the chat as we go through, that'd be great. If we've got time at the end, maybe you might want to take your microphone off and ask them, or I can just ask them from the chat later. And then, if possible, please keep yourself muted during the session so we avoid any background noise or interruptions. And I'm going to try and close things off at 1:30 or very close to it. So thanks again for everyone joining. Over to you, Elena, David, and Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. And to Mike for the introduction. I'm David. I look after our European operations. IRB is a small panel company which also offers offline recruitment for IDIs, that sort of thing, particularly focusing on B2B, which is the subject today. I'll be playing devil's advocate, suggesting myths or perhaps preconceptions or misconceptions prevalent in the industry, at least in our estimation, about B2B online research, and Elena will be answering them. And Jeff, who I met on our last presentation on a similar subject to the ICG 3 years ago, has kindly agreed to add some authority and flavour to proceedings as well with a case study. We're going to keep it to around 15 minutes, and so there'll be time for questions afterwards. And just a very brief introduction to Elena. She was 16 years at Ipsos, and prior to that, quite an international experience. She was a senior strategic planning director for ad agencies. And so for our first myth, given the very high cost of online research for professionals, B2B, about 5 to 10 times as much per interview as for consumers, can be a bit embarrassing when you have very high levels of bad data, and that puts people off. Over to you, Elena.
Thank you, David. But actually, in IRB, the bad data rate is only 10–14% versus average in the industry up to 30–40%, so twice lower. And our average CPI for B2B project is just £16. So how we do it, how we ensure the quality and low bad data rate. There are two things we do. First of all is how we recruit people to our B2B panels. And unlike to a lot of others, our B2B panels were not derived from B2C. We build our B2B panels from the beginning, right for the purpose to talk with business decision makers. And we recruit them from business professional communities, blogs, magazines. We've done specific advertising for this target group, forums, conferences, etc. So this is number one. So we don't like when other companies who derive B2B respondents from B2C, they channel a lot respondents who normally doing B2C studies, and they see that they offered some B2B studies which are much more highly paid. So a lot of professional respondents, they're trying to answer the B2B survey. So we don't have this problem. And it's one of the parts that ensure our quality. And second, we introduce extra quality measure. We call it quality score. So it consists of two parts. We are giving a rating for each respondent based on their identity verification score and also survey behavior score. So they are doing, then they join the panel. So they are signing up and providing all their personal information, including their address, their email address, the salaries, etc. So then they're getting email with internal survey that they're doing. And then we compare manually the data from the behavioral survey and their sign-up data. And if there are inconsistencies, so their score will be low and we disqualify them. So if not, so they will go to your survey and external survey. And this score is dynamic, so depends on their answers and behavior and rejection rate by clients. So the score is changing. So these two parts are very important to ensure the quality of our respondents. And I put here the case study that we've done 3 studies for one management consultancy, small client. And I analyze the average bad data rate, and you can see it's 9%. So we're very proud of it. And the average across this project is 16, 17 pounds actually. I put kind of small case study to show that we actually been able to do this study in 1 week from the first day when we received the request. And we've done 160 interviews with small business owners. So client was very happy. So over to you, David.
Oh, thank you very much. Just responding to some lively chat there. So there's also
David, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. I was engaging in some lively chat there. I must concentrate. Thank you, Elena. There's also a conception which is a bit annoying with B2B online research, that we have to deliver the questionnaire in the mother tongue. Now, that's obviously normally the case.
Slide, please?
Yeah.
Yep.
And when, for example, you have for B2B perhaps only 15 or 20 interviews required in each of 5 languages, can be very expensive, very time consuming, organizing that. We do have a solution, however, I think. Elena, over to you.
Thank you, David. And here we want to thank Jeff Dighton, our client from Insight Engineers, who kindly joined us today. And we let like some his thoughts on what we've done for him. But actually, after David's last presentation for ICG members 3 years ago, so Jeff decided to do the study with us, and actually since then not only one study. So this one particularly is about mechanical car care, and we done it in 2022, and it was not only surprising results for Jeff but for us as well, that when we gave to our respondents opportunity to choose the language that they answer, so they could choose mother tongue language or English. So in the end, we got actually more complete than we expected. More than half respondents actually chosen to answer in English. And we done 4 markets, 250 online interviews over 10 days. And so what I want to say that IRB is fully feasible for B2B project with English questionnaire only, especially for markets like France, Germany, Norway, Spain. And we have one of the clients who serves research only in English and using IRB. And you can understand that in case you need to do 10 completes only for each market, so and you want to do it only in native tongue, so you need to do translation of this to 4 languages, and this increase cost and timing. And we can help to do it also just with English questionnaire. Jeff, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting in this is that we were able to do almost 100 interviews more than we estimated to the client. And I think this is a key thing that IRB give me, is they don't give me a very high estimate of what's possible. And sometimes on this project, we were very clear to the client, we think we can do about 150 interviews. And we decided we'd offer the choice of English and native tongue, believing that there'd be more done in native tongue than English. But in actual fact, the boost came from the native tongue rather than the English. So we went out with, the option of 2 choices. The Swedish one's quite interesting because it's obviously a more expensive country. And we sat there and thought, if we had our time again, would we have gone to the cost of the translation? But for the client, they were delighted, 100 more interviews, and the person could choose for their, preference of whether it's business in English or business in own language. If you want to move on, there's a reason why also on the quality control, we don't just...
Can you move to the next?
Yeah. We also make sure that we've got what we call trap questions to make sure we've got good quality. So one of the things is we don't say we're looking for a survey with mechanics. So this was a car mechanics. It was also important. So the occupation is disguised in a list of about 10 other occupations. And then we're looking down to check whether it's the type of workshop we want. So we were excluding in here the large big brand multi-franchised operations, and really get focusing just on independent workshops. And so we look at factual information to make sure whether we're getting accurate answers at the start in the screening. So how many benches do you have? How many mechanics do you work? And we know that an independent workshop is generally between 2 and 19 benches across Europe. And then we ask them how many oil changes they take, and a knowledge question, what color is new oil? And we do this on all our jobs. We've got other examples of product experience. And so we're looking then, when we accept the interviews, are they giving us a likely answer? So if you say you do, it's 45 minutes for an oil change, and we know that you can do 4 to 5 as a booking in a day, we know that they've got to be over 30. So if they say we do 3 oil changes, we decide whether we want them in or not. And then it's about their responsibility for certain tasks and about their price awareness. In this case, they also had to be price aware. So nice estimates from IRB, not too optimistic. How could we boost it? Client delighted because expectations were managed. And the answers on this job were fantastic. It was for a new category that didn't exist. So we had to get them to describe to us how they described the products that we showed them, so we could talk to it as a category. So great. That was our first job with you after this Lunch and Learn 3 years ago.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much. David, you're muted.
Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate that, and I'm sure perhaps you might stick around for any questions afterwards as well. We always have requests for either online or offline, but we have been able to provide a mix which works very well for clients. So I suppose a myth might be that it's one or the other, pushing it perhaps. But Elena, over to you.
Thank you, David. So actually in IRB, we use a lot of mix mode. We start with the online part, and then we fill gaps with CATI. And we can optimize time and budget using mix mode. So for example, one of the clients came to us saying, okay, we need 2,000 interviews, 30 minutes each. Online. So what we, when we discuss it, we agree in the end to do 1,000 interview, 10 minutes each, but we added CATI as well, like 50 IDIs, and we moved open-end questions there. So we have them to save time and budget. And we provide consultancy on how to reduce required sample size for the objectives that we have in hand. Over to you, David.
Thank you. So
Previous one, please.
Yes, sorry. Wasn't expecting me doing this. Yes, so okay. Given that B2B surveys can be fairly repetitive, and given that people have a restricted focus, generally 10 to 15 minutes, perhaps up to 20 minutes seems to be the cutoff for surveys, which puts a lot of research out of reach for online surveys. Elena, we've found that we can approach this slightly differently, I think.
Thank you, David. Yes, we do know that after 20 minutes, the attention is dropping dramatically. But we still have a lot of requests from clients for 40 minutes interviews. So what we've been able to do is first, okay, we can split survey into two parts. And in the beginning, we are asking respondents to participate in the 40-minute survey, but they can choose to answer if the second part later on within 24 hours. And doing it from the beginning, in the end, we have 95 completion rate, so which is pretty good. So we also are using a lot of kind of gamification or questionnaire design, touch and feel, and other techniques to keep engagement through the longer survey. In the end, if the survey is under 40 minutes, we still can find a way how to do it even without splitting. So thanks to kind of consultancy what we can provide. David, over to you.
Thank you, Elena. Moving on, we often have requests from the end client, for which those gathered here today perhaps are intermediaries, for a way of recompensing or incentivizing the respondents that isn't the traditional way of paying them perhaps to their bank account. And often they find there's a fairly rigid approach to this from panel companies. Elena.
Thank you, David. Can you move to the, oh yeah, you're on this slide now. So actually in IRB, we are much more flexible in terms of incentives. Even we all know that money is number one incentives that respondents want. And it gives us the opportunity actually to tie each panelist to the bank account. So this way we are sure that we have real respondents. So this is very important. But secondarily, we know from our client study, Quest Mindshare, that our actually B2B respondents want more than just money. So they done the study among 800 US and UK B2B respondents who took part in the last 6 months in B2B research. And the question was, how can we improve your experience, make you want to participate more? So what they said is, on top of money, what they want the knowledge to further their career. They want to have an option for charitable donations, and this option is higher in UK than in US. So, for example, we in UK using such charities as Red Cross or Save the Children or Doctors Without Borders or WWF. The last thing they want is maybe some access to company videos that help them with a career or membership in their professional bodies. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Elena. I've just been told we've got about 8 minutes left, including questions,
Okay.
so we'll wrap it up fairly quickly. The last misconception that we often find from our clients is that online business surveys are quite boring and therefore should be avoided. I don't know whether that view is prevalent here. Elena, what do we have to say about it?
Can we move to the next slide, please? Most of my my life, David, I was working for B2C. So for 12 years in Ipsos, I was doing B2C. But okay, for the last 4 years, I switched to B2B. And before I thought, yes, B2B would be boring. But actually now I found out that B2C is actually a bit more interesting than B2C. First, because each request is absolutely different, and it's not like you're doing tracking over and over again for B2C. Secondarily, sometimes you are helping clients for their thought leadership papers that actually changing the industry or has industry importance. Actually, one of the thought leadership's studies we help was for Oxford Uni, and you got the link from Lucy. And also we are having such tasks, challenging tasks or challenging topics from our clients. For example, we've done recently the study for rosacea patients. And the task was to download the picture of the selfie of them applying the treatment cream on their face, plus the prescription. And actually, we were able to do 119 completes even for this task. I will stop, David, here because we don't have much time left. So over to you.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you all for lasting to the end, for which you will have 20% off your first project with IRB, but that's for another time. We have 5 minutes left for any questions and perhaps any thoughts based on what we've had so far.
Brilliant. Thank you, David and Elena, and also Jeff, for your comments as well. It's great to understand it from a research point of view as well. So there's been some questions in the chat. Liz raised a couple of points which you started answering in the chat, David, but I'll just relay them in case people haven't seen them. So there was an overall comment about the need for B2B panels, and then Liz was following up with in terms of how you then manage the volumes you were describing reliably and in terms of churn. Perhaps, I don't know if that's for you, David or Elena.
Yes, I can feel that. So right, about 90% of our work by volume is B2B. We've been going for about 13 years, bit under the radar, still fairly small, but so we find that there is an appetite there. Now, with regard to churn, very interesting. If you're paying your panelists well, so typically a minimum of £5 per survey, so a reasonable incentive for their time, rather than an average of 50p. If you serve them questionnaires which are actually relevant to them, so they qualify, 40% qualification rate, and you pay them on time, treat them well, so on, then they stick with you and they'll recommend other people. And so it's a kind of virtuous circle. We do find that our churn rates are very low, which means we get to know people well, and can predict which surveys they would be most likely to be able to answer well. So I hope that answers the question to some extent.
Okay, I think it probably covers as much as you can on here, David. And then if there's any more follow-up, Liz, do obviously go directly to David. Yeah, okay. So I see your point there. So churn rate is more to do with people shifting companies. I suppose it's a question of, are you recruiting an individual or are you recruiting a business? I suppose that's
right.
One of the
Sorry.
points.
Yes. So we validate people through LinkedIn. About 40% of people when they join, and we have an updated profiling. So every 6 months we can be a bit behind when people move on. So if they're churning through the industry to somewhere else within the industry, perhaps to another industry, then our respondents, we do follow them. There is a bit of a lag, and occasionally we get them wrong, in which case they don't qualify for the relevant survey. So in terms of people's churning through life in different roles and so on, we're within 6 months. And we serve internal questionnaires to ask people to update these specifics to ensure that we do catch everybody who moves.
Great. Thank you, David. Tanya raised a point, and you said you'd share some information. So it was just around the specific sectors that you can focus on. So,
Okay.
So you obviously have the panel profiling information. So I guess you can, we can, I mean, if you share that with us, we can share it more widely with the members afterwards.
I will share that. The main metrics, industry, vertical, seniority, areas of decision making, areas of purchase decision making, those sorts of things. But particularly with regards to sectors, I'll send that and share it with you. And thank you for passing it to everybody else.
And then Sally raised quite an interesting point. Kind of, you know, how high people are in organisations. So would perhaps a C-suite type person be on a panel? What's your experience? What are your thoughts on that?
The key thing for us is just to really keep it be on the safe side when we're quoting, always. So yeah, it depends on the size of the company. We are more senior, if you like, in terms of our profiling than most. We recruit specifically through business websites and so on to find the right sort of people, and we'll pay them appropriately, rather than just recruiting consumers and then asking them what they do for a living. So yes, we are more weighted towards the senior end. And I think something Elena mentioned, which might be relevant here, if you do have, for example, quotas for very senior people or in difficult markets, then sometimes we can reach those at the end of an online research phase with offline CATI research, a bit more expensive, but it can complete the project in quite an efficient way. So yes, it depends.
Okay, I think that's probably a good time to wrap up. Thanks everyone for joining the session. Thank you, Elena, David, and Jeff again for presenting to us an interesting topic with a lot of questions. We will be sharing the recordings as usual, and it's going to be a quiet August for the ICG, so don't expect too much content coming out, but we'll be back with a bang in September. Thank you again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thanks, Jeff.